Our first 10 cruises of 2025 delivered some wild surprises. From budget to luxury, some ships earned every bit of praise, while others, well, let's just say they left a bit to be desired. If you think you know which ships are worth sailing this year, these rankings might completely shift your cruise bucket list. Hey y'all, I'm Evan with Family at Sea, where we help make every cruise unforgettable. After 10 very different sailings this year, we've seen the best and worst that cruising has to offer. And while some ships earned our loyalty, others lost it fast. But what surprised us most was who ended up at the top. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. Before I dive into the rankings, I want to quickly explain how I scored these cruises. While the ports and itineraries definitely shaped the overall vibe, I'm focusing only on the ships themselves for this list. I'm also leaving out any sweet experiences we may have had. Some of these cruises were massively elevated through upgraded rooms and perks, but since most of you aren't going to be sailing in suites, I'm keeping things fair by judging each ship as a whole instead of based on the suite experience. And I'll be honest, this list was a lot tougher to put together than last time. On my previous rankings, there were a few ships that clearly belonged at the bottom, but with this group, even the lower ranked cruises had their strong points, which made these rankings far more competitive from top to bottom. If you're wondering why certain cruise lines aren't on the list, it's not because I'm ignoring them, and it definitely wasn't intentional. It's just how the schedule worked out, but don't worry, there's a lot more variety coming in the second half of the year. With that said, let's get into it. Starting with the ship that landed in last place, not because it was terrible, but well, because something had to come in 10th. Coming in at number 10 is the MSC Meraviglia, and while it wasn't a bad cruise by any stretch, it was the least memorable of the 10 we've taken so far this year. Most people choose this ship not for the ship itself, but because of its home port in New York City, and for convenience, it definitely does the job. But when it comes to the overall experience, the Meraviglia didn't deliver anything that really stood out. With that said, there were some positives. The LED dome over the promenade is still visually impressive, and there's plenty of pool and hot tub space to spread out. There's also no shortage of nightlife with live music, lounges, and themed parties. But almost every venue was packed to the point of being uncomfortable. The silent disco in particular was the most claustrophobic I have ever felt on a cruise ship. Honestly, it has the bones of a great ship, but it's the execution that fell short. The food across the ship was inconsistent. The main dining room was decent, but never truly shined, and the buffet, on the other hand, was a mess. Crowded at all hours, hard to find a table, and the food itself was forgettable at best. Even the specialty dining didn't do much to elevate the experience. Service felt uneven throughout the week, with some crew members being completely attentive and engaging, but others were seemingly overwhelmed and disengaged, like they were going through the motions just to get through the shift. Entertainment definitely didn't help its case either. The shows fell flat, the energy was low, and none of the performances left much of an impression. It all just felt like filler rather than a highlight of the cruise. The casino had such poor ventilation that I could barely breathe, and I couldn't last more than 10 minutes in there before I had to leave. And even though the ship is only 6 years old, it's already showing its age. Several areas felt worn down, and construction was happening in multiple spots during our cruise that was loud enough that we really didn't want to be around it. The real issue though is that nothing about the Meraviglia leaves a lasting impression. It wasn't terrible, it just didn't bring anything special to the table. And in a year packed with surprisingly strong cruises, that made it the easiest ship to forget. Hey guys, I'm gonna take a real quick moment here before we get to number 9 and just say I love what I do, and I love all of you in the audience that take the time to engage and share your thoughts on things. Without you guys, none of this even matters. So I just want to take a moment to say that I appreciate you, and I'm truly grateful for each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this content, if you take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, it'd mean the world to me, but if not, no worries, I get it, and you are still appreciated. So with that out of the way, back to the list. At number 9 is the Carnival Conquest. This was an older ship on a short itinerary with a spring break crowd, and on paper it had all the ingredients for a chaotic mess. Now I won't pretend that there weren't moments that felt like it, but with the right mindset, this cruise actually surprised me in a lot of really good ways. Sure, the ship shows its age visually and logistically, and I happened to catch one of the few sailings where Carnival still runs the old school, in-person, miserable muster drill, and it was pure chaos. Nearly 45 minutes of crowding, confusion, confusion and frustration. Fortunately, it's not something most guests will have to deal with, but it definitely set a rough tone at the start. Beyond that, the crowd leaned heavy into the spring break vibe. Between the party atmosphere and some very noticeable, what let's call herbal aromas, there were times I questioned whether this ship was a good fit for me. But then the other side of the cruise started to show up. The live music on board was a true highlight. Carnival's always had a strong reputation for this, and the Conquest delivered. From a high-energy Latin band in the casino to a talented string trio in the atrium playing everything from Queen to Taylor Swift, it was the kind of entertainment that felt spontaneous instead of scripted. When it came to the shows, the standout was 80s Pop to the Max, which was Carnival's one true production show on this sailing. It had tight choreography, strong vocals, and great energy. It was everything a themed show should be. The rest of the theater lineup was a bit thin. Deal or No Deal and Love and Marriage aren't exactly high art, but they were fun, and that's kind of the point. And then there was Robbie, the cruise director. He's easily one of the best I've seen at sea. His messaging of choosing fun really stuck with me. It's a simple idea, but one that defines the Carnival experience better than anything else. The Conquest isn't a ship I would seek out again, but it reminded me that when you drop the pretense and lean into the energy, Carnival still has something worth showing up for. At number 8, we've got the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. This is clearly an older ship. While that doesn't bother me personally, it's definitely noticeable the moment you step on board. If you're someone who prefers the newest ships with the latest technology and sleek design, this one may leave you a bit underwhelmed. That said, there's something special about the crew on these Margaritaville ships. Across all the sailings I've done on Margaritaville, the team has consistently felt more upbeat, more engaged, and just happier to be there than what I typically see on all the other cruise lines. It changes the energy of the ship in a really positive way. The shows aren't high budget, but they're genuinely entertaining. The cast brings a ton of personality, and you can tell they're giving it everything they've got. For a cruise at this price point, it's honestly impressive. The Hemisphere Dancer Lounge, located just outside the Stars on the Water Theater at the board of Deck 8, is one of my favorite spots on board. Between live piano music, the laid-back vibe, and the chance to have a real conversation over drinks, it's one of those places that just works. As for food, yes, the buffet is definitely rough. It's crowded, chaotic, and the quality leaves a lot to be desired. But on the flip side of that, the JWB Prime Steakhouse is excellent. It's really just a space carved out of the main Finn's dining room versus its own restaurant, but the food is excellent. I've had the ribeye twice here, and both times it was ranked among the best steaks I've had at sea. I wish I could say the same about Farside Sushi, the ship's new sushi venue. It looks promising, but the execution just isn't there in my experience. It felt like an afterthought, and it didn't live up to the rest of the dining experience. So why is the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise at number 8? Not because it was a bad cruise, because it definitely wasn't. But in a year where even our budget sailings brought strong competition, this one just didn't leave as lasting an impression. Alright, before we get to number 7, I just gotta say, with pricing all over the place on these different cruises and promos changing constantly and fake sales on websites, it's hard to know if you're getting a good deal or just biting on the bait. And that's why we always book our cruises through Cruises It. They not only save us money, but they also unlock some perks and upgrades we wouldn't get on our own. And with their low price guarantee, you can rest easy knowing you're not leaving money on the table, or peace of mind either. If you're planning to sail on any of these ships or any others, do yourself a favor and click on the link below or give them a call and let them know Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You'll be glad you did. Now up next is a ship that ranked higher on my 2024 list, but in a stronger lineup, it didn't hold its position. Coming in at number 7 is the MSC Seascape. This was my second time sailing this ship, and while there's a lot to like, there's also a clear reason it's not landing higher on this list. We sailed in mid-January, and because of that, the ship was well below capacity. I'm talking 0 crowds anywhere, no packed elevators, no chaos at the theater, and no fighting for pool chairs. It made for one of the most relaxed MSC cruises we've ever had. But when you strip away the usual crowds, you start to notice what's really working and what isn't. The buffet, for example, was still chaos, not because of volume, but because of poor design. The layout funnels people into tight traffic jams, and the food itself was average at best. The casino was another letdown. When I sailed on the Seascape last year, it was smoke-free, but they've since reversed course and the smell was hard to ignore. It's a frustrating step backward for an otherwise sleek, modern ship. Entertainment on MSC has never been their strong suit, and that remained true here. It's not that the performers lacked talent, but the shows felt thin and underdeveloped. It's one of those areas where you can tell MSC is cutting costs to keep fares low. And while there are plenty of bars on board, most of them are packed in the loud, high-traffic atrium areas. If you're looking for a quiet drink without the background noise of live music or a DJ, good luck, especially in the evenings. The Seascape is a beautiful ship on the surface, but once you start to peel back the layers, there just isn't enough depth to rank it any higher. Up next is a ship that dazzles in all the right ways visually, but proves that stunning design can't always make up for what's missing beneath. At number 6 is the Disney Treasure. The ship itself is stunning. The detail, the craftsmanship, the design, it's exactly what you'd expect from Disney. Every space feels intentional, polished, and rich with storytelling. But beautiful design only gets you so far if the soul of the ship doesn't match. And that's where things fell short. Beauty and the Beast was the standout show on board, and it's easily one of Disney's best at sea. Moana also had its moments, but it didn't quite reach the same level in my opinion. When it came to dinner theater, Worlds of Marvel left us underwhelmed. Of the 2 shows offered in this dining room, one was reused entirely from what they already have in the Disney Wish. If you haven't been on the Wish, maybe that's not a big deal, but when you have, and you're paying the premium for what's supposed to be a brand new experience, recycled content like that just doesn't sit right. Overall, though, dining was hit or miss. The main dining rooms were a highlight with thoughtful service and beautifully plated meals that felt worthy of the Disney name. But outside those venues, the quality became inconsistent. The quick service spots looked fun, but served food that often felt more theme park than cruise ship. Marceline Market, which is the ship's buffet, had excellent food and variety for a cruise ship, but it was extremely crowded during peak times, and while that may be expected on less expensive cruises, it wasn't on par with what you experience on other premium cruise lines. We decided to give Enchante a try on this sail, which is one of only 2 specialty restaurants on board, and while the food and wine pairings were honestly good, the $700 price tag for 2 pushed the boundaries of reason, even for Disney. That kind of cost sets a premium expectation that it just didn't quite meet. And with only 2 specialty venues available, dinner options feel limited on longer sailings compared to other cruise lines. The rotational dining concept helps offset that to a degree, but especially on shorter sailings after a week on board, it started to feel a bit too familiar. What made that even more noticeable was how few technology conveniences there were to fall back on. There's no way to order food from the Navigator app, and Wi-Fi, despite costing an absolutely ridiculous $42 per day per person for the premium package, was painfully slow. For a brand that prides itself on innovation, it felt surprisingly behind the curve. When you're paying Disney level prices, that kind of tech gap is harder to overlook. And if you're sailing without kids, the adult experience just really isn't a priority. That's expected and okay since we're sailing with kids, but if you're a Disney adult or somebody that's just trying it out, the adult-only areas feel small, uninspired, and more like a quiet retreat for parents than a dedicated offering for adult travelers. The Treasure is a ship that nails the fairy tale vibe, but if you're looking for warmth, depth, and a soul that lingers long after disembarkation, you may find yourself yearning for something a bit more grounded. Now, this next ship may not have a themed dining room or a superhero dinner show, but what it does have is a quiet confidence and an identity that doesn't feel the need to prove itself. Cracking into the top 5 now, and this is where things truly start to feel dialed in. At number 5 is the Holland America Konigsdam, which is a ship that reminded me how good a cruise can feel when you strip away all the noise. Not in a dated or stuffy way either. The Konigsdam manages to feel grown up and elegant without ever being uptight. The vibe here is calm, thoughtful, and deeply comfortable in a way that sneaks up on you and sticks. I started most mornings at the Grand Dutch Cafe, grabbing a coffee and watching the sea roll by. But on sea days, my favorite spot was the Crow's Nest. Perched up forward with panoramic views and cozy seating, it had everything I needed to unwind. An inviting bar, a full-service cafe, board games, puzzles, and even the excursions desk. It felt like a hidden gem in plain sight, and it's the kind of space most newer ships have abandoned in favor of flashier venues. The Konigsdam doesn't do flashy, and that's kind of to the point. It's not chasing trends, it's offering something quieter and more refined. You feel that in the music walk where 3 venues, BB King's Blues Club, Billboard Onboard, and the Rolling Stone Rock Room, all deliver top-tier live music every night. Now, I will say, as much as I love the talent here, the spaces were often too loud to hold a proper conversation. That wasn't a deal breaker because we still love the music, but it's worth noting if you're hoping for more of a lounge vibe. Dining was a bit of a mixed bag. Club Orange offered a noticeably elevated experience with faster seating, more personalized service, and a menu that actually felt a step up, but the specialty restaurants weren't nearly as strong. The food was just okay, and service felt sluggish thanks to Holland America's single server approach, which really slows things down compared to the team-based service models you'll find on nearly every other cruise line. And while Holland America isn't known for being family-friendly, we were honestly impressed. The kids club had a cap of 30 kids in the 7 to 11 age group, and it never went over 20. And that made a huge difference, especially for our son, who usually avoids overly crowded spaces but asked to go back every day. Our daughter loved it too, but she's more extroverted and loves the bigger kids clubs even more. There were fun extras too, like park rangers on board during Glacier Bay and music bingo and other family activities sprinkled throughout the week. And even the pool scene held up surprisingly well for an Alaska sailing. The Seaview pool is technically the adults only option and not as appealing in cold weather, but the midship Lido deck solarium pool was warm, had manageable crowds most of the time, and gave the kids a chance to swim and socialize without it turning into a zoo. For a cruise line that caters mostly to older adults, this was a surprisingly well-rounded family experience. No slides and no roller coasters, but for us, it was the perfect cruise for an Alaskan itinerary. But this next ship, it didn't care about refined charm, it just needed flip-flops, frozen drinks, and a whole lot of heart. Coming in at number 4 is the Margaritaville at Sea Islander. And if I'm honest, this is a ship I did not expect to rank this high. But sometimes a cruise doesn't need luxury finishes or industry-leading innovation. It just needs to feel like a vacation. And the Islander, that's exactly what it delivered. Everything about this ship screams laid-back fun. The pastel colors, the beachy decor, and the casual energy. It's like someone bottled up Key West and turned it into a cruise ship. It's not trying to be something it's not. And that authenticity goes a long way. You're not constantly measuring it against glitzier options because it doesn't pretend to compete with them. It just invites you to relax. Now, it wasn't all sunshine and rum runners, of course. The buffet hours were limited, so if you didn't time things right, you could be stuck scavenging for snacks. And this is definitely a budget ship at heart, so some amenities are a bit sparse compared to what you'll find on the major lines. But those trade-offs felt minor once I settled into the ship's rhythm. The crew made a huge impression, especially my server in the MBR Angeline, as well as Diana. But the crew across the entire ship are genuinely warm, laid back, and unpretentious, and it felt like they were in on the vibe, not just executing a checklist. It's one of the few cruises I've been on where the service felt truly personal. While the entertainment wasn't Broadway caliber, it was surprisingly strong for a ship this size. From the theater shows to the piano bar, everything leaned into the fun-first atmosphere. One of my favorite moments came during karaoke night when a middle-aged guest brought the house down with a full-blown Jimmy Buffett impression. The entire room was on their feet, and that kind of joy doesn't just come from production budgets. It comes from a crew and a crowd that actually want to be there. Now, the Islander isn't flashy, and it's not for everyone, but if you're looking for a ship with heart, where flip-flops and frozen drinks are practically required, this one might surprise you like it did me. But the next ship, it does have flash, and it's also got thrills, tech, and a bold new look for an established brand, and it might just be their most impressive ship yet. At number 3 is the Norwegian Aqua, a ship that represents a real turning point for NCL. For years, Norwegian felt stuck in a design rut. The Breakaway and Breakaway Plus ships all started blending together like they were chasing bigger instead of better. But the Prima class changed that. And the Aqua, it takes that evolution even further. The Norwegian Aqua still brings the brand's signature energy, but now it's wrapped in a sleeker, more modern experience. The ship's style feels cooler, the layout makes more sense, and there's a lot more variety in how you can spend your time on board. One of the most talked about features is the Aqua Slide Coaster, and rightfully so. This thing is a full-blown water slide meets roller coaster hybrid, and while it's not exactly Space Mountain, it's a thrilling, one-of-a-kind addition that turns heads and gets the adrenaline pumping. Our kids were all in time, but surprisingly, so were mom and dad. The Glow Court brought a fun new energy to the ship with its LED lit space that shifted from basketball court by day to nightclub-style sports venue by night. And just steps away, Tea Time offered a surprisingly immersive round of glow-in-the-dark mini-golf that kept our kids coming back for more. The stadium was packed with games like foosball and shuffleboard, creating an active hangout spot without ever feeling overcrowded. And the upgraded Vibe Beach Club added a splash of elegance to the pool scene with its wraparound bar and infinity hot tubs. This was the perfect space for those looking for a quieter place to unwind. There's no question the Norwegian Aqua brings a lot of innovation to the table, but the entertainment left us wanting more. Broadway-style shows used to be a hallmark of NCL, but surprisingly, this ship doesn't have a single one. Instead, there were just 3 main shows during our 7-night sailing, and none of them felt like must-sees. The production quality was fine, but the content lacked that wow factor that used to set NCL apart. For a ship this new and this bold in other areas, the entertainment lineup felt oddly forgettable. Still, the Norwegian Aqua shows that NCL isn't just trying to keep up anymore. They're pushing things forward in their own way. But the next ship, it trades splashy features for quiet sophistication. A ship that doesn't need to scream to stand out because the experience speaks for itself. Coming in at number 2 is a ship that surprised us in all the best ways. Explora 1 from Explora Journeys. After the high-octane energy of the Norwegian Aqua, this was like walking into a spa for your soul. Everything slows down, the space breathes, and the luxury, it's not about being flashy, it's about intention. Explora Journeys is owned by the same family behind MSC Cruises, but this isn't just MSC in a tuxedo. It's a completely different cruise line with its own ships, its own crew or hosts as Explora Journey refers to them, and a philosophy that's all about understated elegance and hospitality. Everything here is designed to feel effortless. All the suites, and yes, every room is a suite, comes with their own walk-in closets, heated bathroom floors, and even espresso machines. But the dining experiences are where Explora Journeys really shows off. From the Mediterranean-inspired Med Yacht Club to the Pan-Asian Fil Rouge, every venue felt like a high-end standalone restaurant. Even the Emporial Marketplace, which is definitely not a buffet, instead it is their European-style food hall, manages to feel upscale. That said, not everything was perfect, and our dinner at Margaritaville, which is their steakhouse, definitely did not live up to expectations. Their ribeye steaks, which is my favorite cut of steak, are cut, I don't know how to say it other than they're cut wrong. They have large tendons running down the length of the steak, making them tough and chewy. But to make matters worse, they seem to forget about us for extended periods of time. Now, I know some of you are going to say, no, Evan, that's just the European style of dining. But that's not what this was. It was extra extended. In fact, there was a table beside us that started about 15 minutes after us, and they were done, including dessert, 10 minutes before us, and we never even got to dessert. But with that said, even when things weren't perfect, it was nothing that overshadowed or otherwise diminished the experience. And honestly, even the entertainment, which we were adamantly skeptical of before the cruise, turned out to be a pleasant surprise. No big budget spectacles or jaw-dropping effects, but the nightly shows were creative, well executed, and a relaxing way to end the day. And their cruise director, Martin Moss, deserves a special mention. After a long career with Princess, he brought a level of polish and warmth that tied together the whole entertainment program. But the entertainment didn't stop when you left the Journeys Lounge. Whether it was karaoke in the Eastern Lounge, live music at the lobby bar, or a DJ at the Sky Bar as we sailed out of port, there was always something happening without it ever feeling chaotic or forced. If your idea of luxury is quiet mornings, deep conversations, and not lifting a finger unless you feel like it, this ship nails it. Explora 1 may not be for everyone, but for anyone seeking a true escape, this ship absolutely delivers. And the next ship, well, it couldn't be more different. Because while Explora 1 invites you to slow down, the next one cranks the energy all the way up. It's loud, proud, and impossible to ignore. And somehow it still exceeded our expectations. At number 1 is the MSC World America. And trust me, we didn't have this ship pegged for the top spot. But after spending a week on board, it didn't just impress us, it rewrote the narrative entirely. We boarded with curiosity but caution. MSC has a mixed reputation in the US, especially around service, crowding, and food. And while we expected to enjoy parts of the experience, we weren't prepared to walk away saying this was our best overall cruise we've been on so far this year. But somehow it was. Right from the start, the MSC World America leaned all the way into the megaship experience, and it worked. Big, bold, and unapologetically packed with options, it didn't hold back on delivering high-energy entertainment, flashy venues, and a non-stop sense of momentum. But what surprised us most was how well it all came together. It wasn't just big for the sake of being big. It actually felt thoughtfully designed with a flow that kept things fun without becoming chaotic. The food was a standout across the board. With more than a dozen restaurants on board, we never felt stuck rotating through the same venues. Even the casual options had intention behind them, like the pizza counter that cranked out some of the best slices we've had at sea, or the late night soft serve that never missed. And then there's the World Galleria, the indoor promenade that runs through decks 6 to 8 midship, and this space is more than just a pretty ceiling. It's a design home run. Whether you're grabbing a drink, popping into one of the specialty restaurants, or just people watching, it always felt alive without being overwhelming. And as for entertainment, MSC, for the first time ever, brought the goods. The World Theater delivered a strong mix of production shows throughout the cruise, with sharp choreography, powerful vocals, and high-energy performances that kept the crowds engaged. But it was the Panorama Lounge that truly stole the show. Located at the aft of the ship, this multi-level venue features wrap-around windows, plush seating, and a design that felt more like a high-end lounge than a typical cruise ship showroom. During the day, it's a scenic, low-key spot with aft-facing views, but at night, it transforms into a high-tech performance space with massive LED walls, interactive lighting, and a fully digital dance floor, and that's where we experienced Queen Symphonic. This performance blended the grandeur of classical instruments with the raw energy of Queen's iconic music, and it wasn't just good, it was unforgettable. Without question, it was the best show we've ever seen on MSC, and one of the top 5 we've seen at sea, period. We also love discovering the hidden speakeasy tucked behind a faux phone booth in the World Galleria. It's an invite-only venue where you'll need a secret coin from a crew member just to get in. And once inside, the vibe shifts to something more intimate, moody, and cool. It's a rare trick to make a ship this big feel this exclusive without feeling pretentious, but World America honestly nailed it. The ship wasn't perfect, but the way it surprised us over and over again was what sealed the deal. And one of the best parts, the MSC World America delivers all of this at a price that makes even budget cruise lines look expensive. And in this next video, I uncovered how MSC pulls off those cheap prices and what it means for your next cruise. So click here to watch the full breakdown. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.